So what if everything you believe to be real and true wasn't? Would you want to know that? Would you want to confront that kind of monster? So when I was 8 years old, my parents told me there are no monsters under my bed. So, of course, there are no monsters, except the one night when I went to bed and I heard scratching, quite heavy scratching, so I look under my bed. And I was faced with a monster. In that moment of panic and fear, there was no ways I could see my brother with his stupid, ridiculous monkey, whatever outfit on. But that kind of woke me up to something. And it woke me up to the research and the work I do today, which is what happens when we're faced with those monsters? What happens when the world and everything you thought was real and true is questioned, is no longer the way you think it is? How do you respond? How do I respond to those monsters? Well, I responded by just running and screaming and going crazy. But what happens when we do that? What happens when we don't face those monsters? What happens is they get bigger in our imagination. What happens is they start to rule over and influence the decisions and the judgments we make. But when we actually embrace the monster, it turns out that by embracing it, it helps us to get through a lot of superstitious beliefs that can hold us back. And it allows us to really free ourselves to see reality for the way it is, as tough as that might be, and we're able to actually tune into things and hear things much better. So what if you were able to see the future? You're able to tune into things just before they happened. You could sense and hear that there's a tsunami coming, whatever it is. Maybe it's a new business. Maybe there's thousands of tsunamis hitting us right now. So you're able to do that. Now the problem is like this. How do you wake the rest of us up? How do you say, guys, there's a tsunami coming, wake up? Do you think we'd wake up? Do you think we'd hear it? So let me just bring this home and just show you some of the tsunamis that we're facing, some of the difficulties and challenges that we're facing. So I talk about three inevitable forces. What are these three inevitable forces? They're inescapable, you can't hide from it, they're going to happen. So the first one is, in human history, we've never seen changes like this happen over such a short amount of time. Technology has enabled things to really hit us, what economists now call radical changes. They just happen really fast. But they don't just happen really fast, they hit our entire global economy. So it's like a Twitter feed. It can literally shake up an entire economy and rock it, right? You can have shares literally busted overnight because of a Twitter feed. But the third aspect, which I think is the toughest one, which is the one I have to deal with all the time, is as human beings, we're very slow to change. So we hold on to our beliefs and our assumptions of what we think is real and true, and yet technology is racing ahead, and it's challenging a lot of our fundamental assumptions about what we believe is right, what we believe is wrong, our social boundaries, our moral boundaries. So let me just bring this home, right? I've got an 11-year-old daughter, and she goes into her bedroom, closes the door, and here's the problem. That monster that was under my bed, it just jumped on her bed. And it's sitting there with her, and she's got a cell phone. And on that cell phone, she can be in any chat room. I don't know what she's doing. So as a parent, I mean, how do I react? How do I respond to that kind of panic? So what I would have done is I would have freaked out and taken her phone away, closed the internet. But she can go next door, or she can go to her friend, or she can go back to school. So what we did is we embraced that monster. And we realized that years before, this was inevitable. Technology is a part of our life, and we weren't going to hide away from it. So I had to educate myself, I had to educate my daughter on what these new boundaries are, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what's private, what's intimate, what do you share. Now, there's no ways I've worked it out yet. We're still working out, but we talk about this monster regularly, and we continuously got to battle with it. And the monster, in fact, has actually showed us some incredible opportunities. It connected us to people that we never even thought existed. Really cool people. But there are other monsters, like the job market. So in the job market, a lot of people are worried about artificial intelligence. They're worried about machines. Because if you got one of these jobs, right, machines can probably do it faster and probably better than us in the next couple of years. So let's just say you're a doctor. So what do? What's your response? As a doctor, my response would be artificial intelligence. What machine can actually make better diagnosis of patients than I can in the next couple of years? Probably could. But here's the thing. What's my response? Do I go, this is never going to happen, or get rid of it? Or do I say, wait a second, as a doctor, I could do so much more. It's not here to replace me or make me redundant. It's here to make me save more lives. This monster, in fact, enables me to do so much more. A classic one is driverless cars. So our response to driverless cars is like this. A driverless car drives, it has an accident, and the entire system gets upgraded. Human beings, when we have an accident and we make a mistake, guess what? We don't really upgrade that quickly. We carry on making the same mistakes. We carry on texting. We carry on drinking and driving. There are 1.2 million deaths on the road because of our reckless driving. Now, what if I told you that 90% of those deaths could be taken off the road with driverless cars? Response should be, and probably would be, that get those cars on the road. But here's the thing. One driverless car hits into an innocent family, and we see this car as this faceless thing. We see it on the media front page saying, driverless car kills a family. Our response is, get them off the roads. So how did we respond to that monster? Education in South Africa, I'd say, is a very hot topic right now, and I'm definitely not coming to solve the education crisis. But as a parent, I've got to work out what the best opportunities are for my kids. So why would I want to educate them? So they can get out there and actually make a living, that they can, really adapt to the world. But here's the thing. There's something that the LinkedIn and PwC, they did a study on something called the talent mismatch. Talent mismatch is basically, as a kid or as a youth in the labor force, you don't have the skills the market needs. Now, what's the problem? The market's moving on so fast. You just got your degree, and the market's going, yeah, but that was 3 years ago. We've moved on. That skill, that degree, it doesn't help us right now. There's new opportunities. That is costing the global industry $150 billion a year in terms of lost opportunity. So what some forward-thinking education institutions are doing is they're actually taking these skills and embedding it into their curriculum. They're saying, yes, you need technical skills, but above that, you need these skills. Why? Because in a world that's rapidly changing, that's really uncertain, you've got to know that when monsters come at you, you've got to know how to adapt. You've got to know how to flip back in your feet. You've got to have these skills to handle the changes that come at you. So the question is, do our education institutions have these? Are they starting to educate our kids with this? And the people who are educating our kids, do they have these skills? And do you have these skills? But if we just stop for a second and ask the question, where do we turn? There's so much change going on and so much uncertainty. Often people come to me and say, Akiva, just tell me what I should do. So I often ask myself the same question. Where should we go? Who are the experts? So 10 years ago, this is what I would have said to you. You know who the expert is? Here's a guy or a woman, 20, 30 years experience in your industry. They'll give you a 10-year plan that you can go to bed at night and not worry about any of those monsters. Because don't worry, it's sorted. They'll give you the answers. And don't worry, they're not going to give you more questions. Trust me. That might have worked 10 years ago. But in this economy, we're transient and things are just never staying the same and they're changing so fast, that doesn't cut the grade anymore. So there's a different type of expert out there. And I call these experts radical outsiders. What makes them so radical is that they come from the outside. And when they come from the outside, their radicalness is that when they see a problem, they don't say, is this possible? They just say, let me do this, let me make it. And they radically reinvent and reshape entire industries. And they're outsiders, obviously, because they're just not on our radar. Our periphery is like this, and they come from here. And Elon Musk, when he came into the car industry, even though he was one of ours and he went to Silicon Valley, his skill set, he didn't have 30 years experience in making cars, but it was because he didn't have that past that he was able to really reshape and rethink the entire industry. He wasn't bound to their beliefs, and therefore he was able to say, well, that might have worked back in your day, but let me show you how things work. Another good example is General Electric. One of my friends, Stephen Aguria, when he came to them, General Electric, 124-year-old industry, they're kind of like a behemoth. They just kind of move really slowly, like a lot of big organizations today as well. They couldn't respond to the changes, so they're quite a smart organization, and they realized if we're going to respond to this world that's rapidly changing, we need something different. Stephen came in from the outside, and he showed them how to become a lean startup organization, how to become agile, how to have these skills. So, I want to show you and introduce you to a friend of mine. Her name's Lerato. Because often when we hear about these big stories of radical outsiders, we think that it's for the celebrities. Maybe we don't have access to it. But the truth is, there's radical outsiders that are sitting in this audience today. Lerato is one of those, from South Africa. But when Lerato started off, she had to face some really big monsters. Between the ages of 5 and 9, she was molested by her family members, and at age of 13, she was gang raped. Age of 15, she was orphaned. Lerato didn't see that as an obstacle. She didn't become a victim. She didn't run away from the monsters. She took that monster, and she used these skills to literally reshape the country we're in. Lerato today, the pain that she had, she uses that pain to look at opportunities and say, not is this possible? There's a crack in our society. Our youth don't have direction. What she's doing is she's giving them a voice. She's working with the Nelson Mandela Foundation. She's working with Harvard. She's doing stuff around what she calls the Civic Academy, giving our youth a voice in the market. So if you're a Lerato out there, step up because we need you. But here's the thing. Our continent here today, the African continent, I see ourselves as the radical outsiders. We're those ones who just don't quite seem to fit into the Western mold. And we've got the most amazing, most abundant opportunities waiting right underneath us. When McKinsey did some studies on this, they said in their latest report, our growth in Africa is worth $5.6 trillion over the next 10 years. We have the biggest global workforce, bigger than China and India, in the next 10 years. But here's the monster in the room. The monster's like this. With all that great growth, we don't have the infrastructure to accommodate for that growth. So now there's a lot of our cities are getting built up, but they're gridlocked. You can't even move around them. The youth who are running into these new cities for opportunities, they don't have the skills. The small to medium businesses, they don't have the skills. They are ill-prepared for these amazing opportunities. So what do? I mean, imagine that. You've got the biggest global workforce in the world, and they don't have jobs. I mean, that's the immigration crisis, the refugee crisis, ain't seen nothing yet. So how do we deal with this? How do we unlock our own opportunity? Because it looks like we're locked out of it. So here's what I'd like to suggest and offer as a way of how we can get back in this game, how we can unlock our own opportunity. And here it is. Just choose reality. Because you know what? It's inevitably, it's going to win. And secondly, if you're struggling with reality, if you're locked up in whatever you're locked up into, then go find some of our homegrown radical outsiders. Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to challenge your assumptions. They're going to challenge your beliefs. They're going to challenge all the little business models that you think work and are real, and they're going to flip it on its head, and they're going to show you how to do things. Because I call them the maker generation. They just make things happen in incredible ways. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to show you how to achieve the impossible. But lastly, ask great questions. Because it's the radical outsiders out there who will start asking us great questions. Let's ask simple questions like, how do we disrupt ourselves? How do you disrupt our career? How do you disrupt our organizations? Disrupt it not to break it down, but like Lerato did. Disrupt because we can make it a better system. Because you know, most of the systems today, they're broken anyways. So let's not break further. Let's work out ways of how to fix it. Because it's inevitable. Whatever opportunities are there today, there are bigger ones tomorrow. So let's not avoid these monsters. Let's not run away from them. Let's see them as the opportunity to embrace reality and hear things better. But just remember, when you're looking in unfamiliar places, just start looking under your bed first. Thank you.